This event is being videotaped, and it will be on our website shortly. Correct, Dan?
Yes.
So if you missed something, you can always go back and check it out and make sure you actually heard what was said. So, folks, I'm Brewster Rhodes. I'm a member of the leadership team for Bold New Democracy, which is the sponsor of tonight's forum. And Bold New Democracy is a wonderful activist organization. In fact, there's a QR code. If you want to take a picture of Dan right now, it'll take you right to the website. He's holding it up. But Bold New Democracy, the slogan or tagline for the organization is, we work as political activists to build a bold new democracy that is passionate, progressive, and empowered by people. Something I think we can all agree upon. Right? I see a lot of head shaking here. Excellent. Good enough. Thank you. And for could the folks who are on the leadership team of Bold New Democracy please raise your hand so everybody can see who you are? Good. So you see these folks, you can ask them questions about the organization, but we encourage you to check out the website, get on the e-newsletter list. It comes out regularly with very useful information about events and activities and perspectives for people involved in the political arena. So first we just want to thank Jess Hewen. This place is great, and actually I must admit, being from Mount Washington, this is my first time here. And Harriet Russell, Mayor of College Hill, thank you very much for welcoming us to your community. But it's a beautiful place. And we need to make some room right here. Come on down here, come on down. Here we go. Get your seat back. So here's the agenda for tonight. We're grateful that Bryan Hambley is with us, the doctor. He's in the house. And he's going to be sharing his point of view about his candidacy and the issues at stake in the race for Secretary of State here in Ohio for about 15 minutes. And then we have some questions that the leadership team has put together that we'll pose to him. We'll do that for another 10, 15 minutes, and then we have an opportunity for you all to ask Bryan questions and share your points of view about this issue, about democracy in Ohio, as challenged as it is today, and what you hope that he will advocate for as Secretary of State. And then we'll have then we'll be able to mingle. The challenge, though, is these guys close at 8 o'clock. So we are under a little bit of a time pressure to keep things moving. Okay? Are you all with me? All right, great. All right. So, very briefly, this is not a formal introduction, but Bryan, as you all know, is a physician. He actually specializes in treating patients with leukemia. His wife is a trauma surgeon. I can't imagine how they keep the household together here with a 5- and 7-year-old in it. But they live in Loveland, so there are sort of regional favorites. Well, you're our regional favorite son, I guess, in this race here, buddy. And we're very grateful, and take your last bite because you're going to speak in a second. We're very grateful that you took the time to come down and meet with us, and we hope that we'll be able to share your message through the media and the website, and hope that you all will take home what you glean from this meeting as beneficial and share it with your neighbors and friends. We do not make endorsements as an organization. We provide an opportunity for candidates to share their points of view with people we can organize and mobilize like you all tonight. So we're grateful you're here, and I'll turn it over to the doc. All right.
Thank you, Brewster. I didn't know I'd get to meet you in person tonight, so we had a phone call a few weeks ago. Is the audio all right at about this volume?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, I understand we are having this discussion at a really unusual time in American democracy to talk about democracy. And so the way I like to start these is a little different than the average political thing. We're going to start by taking 2 minutes. I'd like you to turn to the 1 or 2 people by you and say one thing that you are proud about that America has done or built. One thing you're proud about America's done or built. It can be historical. Yosemite, the Golden Gate Bridge, Medicare. But we will take 2 minutes and we will start right now.
And that is a nice part in this show, how they want to take away watching both, like, they're really nice. They have the third so that's why I originally asked her about it. It's nice
All right, thank you for starting like that. First, do you mind sharing what you said or heard that you liked?
Well, the comment was, what we did well as a country, World War II.
Yeah.
World War II, very powerful.
Great. Diane, right?
Yes. We talked about the legacy hope that the reason we're here is because we're hopeful that we can continue to move forward.
Yeah, enduring hope and a country that gets better generation by generation. Yeah. Y'all mind sharing one?
I said that I'm very, very pleased with the increasing number of people who are protesting, because we can do that in a democracy.
Yeah, Lauren and I were just talking about the No Kings protest coming up on March 28th. I'll be in Middletown. I know they're doing one in Loveland. Are they doing one area around here?
Yeah, we're doing it at City Hall.
City Hall. What time is it on the 28th?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock at City Hall. Yeah. You all mind sharing?
Yeah, we talked about the Underground Railroad Museum, and then just the Underground Railroad, by itself is something that should be proud of.
Yeah. Thanks. Or do you mind saying the one you had told me?
That we're all created equal. Our founding document, even though our history says otherwise, at least that is our goal.
I think there's a protest in the field of
Yeah.
Proud.
You mind sharing?
I said democracy and ranked choice voting.
Hey, straight up to the Secretary of State alley. Thank you. Do you mind sharing?
I said the interstate highway system.
Yeah. Mark and I put about 2,000 miles on the Jeep a week at this point. If it weren't for the interstate highway system, it'd be some late nights. Y'all mind sharing?
We talked about the fact that there is resistance. That's great in this country. There's disappointment in some local Democrats, especially in the congressional side. But outside of that, we're hoping that we'll stay a democracy.
Yeah. Gary, your group?
Oh, I think the public school system, for the most part.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, which got a founding start in Ohio, the old Northwest Territory, when they gritted it out.
It's been the great assimilator.
And you were on the school board here for 12 years, right?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Do you mind sharing?
Are you behind me or here?
Right at you.
We talked about the national parks,
Yeah.
among other things. It's my other group.
Do you have a favorite national park?
Oh, Zion.
Ooh. Anybody been to Zion? Yeah. How incredibly beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind sharing?
What I specifically said,
Or one you heard that you liked?
I spoke to kind of the soft powers that were created under DD and USAID and Peace Corps, things that kind of utilized global approach to introducing us in a soft way.
Yeah, a foreign policy that was about more than conquest, something new in the world. Yeah.
So we talked about first architecture and then cities where nation built on.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else in this group of four?
We also appreciated Medicare.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not old enough yet, but.
So can appreciate it. Yeah. Anybody I missed that wanted to say theirs? Do you mind sharing?
Oh, I said stuff like NASA because it's an example of like partnership between public and private and all different groups in society for a goal that is like not based on like capitalism, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I promise I'm not making this up, but my children who had a birthday since Bruce, your introduction, they're now 6 and 8, and they're astronauts. I know, our website's out of date. I knew it was problems. They are in their astronaut phase, and so I always say the Apollo missions, because as you know, it wasn't just the famous people who were involved in the Apollo missions. 500,000 Americans worked at some level for some duration of time on the Apollo missions in the 1960s and early 70s.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, being in Ohio, it was a kid from Wapakoneta, Ohio. Of all the places on earth, that Neil Armstrong was the first human being on the moon, who later taught aerospace engineering at the University of Cincinnati. I know that's not a common way to start a political spiel. So I want to describe why I want to start that way, especially right now. There are 3 reasons. Number 1, if what we have lost during Trump is the ability to see a democracy where we do things together that none of us can do alone, that is an upstream problem in our politics, and it's not new. It's the old Reagan argument. The government can do nothing good and just has to get out of the way while private corporations and billionaires take care of everyone and everything. But there's a weakness to that argument. And you all highlight it really well. That argument relies on fake news. It relies on an Ohio that does not exist and never did. And there is a strength to the counter-argument that we have not exploited politically. And that's that there's no community in Ohio, Southern Ohio, Northeastern Ohio, rural communities, urban communities, where we need to go and invent a reality. We need to ask people about their lives. Where do their kids go to school? 9 times out of 10 in Ohio, it's a public school. Now, where do they go on vacation with their family? Was it a national park? A state park? Their aunt who got pneumonia needed to be in the hospital. What kind of insurance is she on? Was it Medicare? Medicaid? VA benefits? Better than a 50-50 chance in Ohio, it is one of those 3. So we need to ask people about their lives. Second, if what you need in a representative democracy, nearly 250 years old this summer, is a group of people with shared values, but different priorities, a room full of people who are proud of different things that don't counter each other, is a really good place to start. You can have great national parks, and you can have Medicare, and you can have a scientific community that builds upon itself generation by generation. In fact, it's best if you have them all. And number 3, the last decade of Trump in our politics has felt a lot like playing whack-a-mole. Right? You wake up and all of a sudden you got to have an opinion on some issue you never dreamed needing to have an opinion on. Invading Greenland. Changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico. Cuba. It's exhausting. Cuba. Go on and on and on. Did you ever think you needed an opinion on some of these things? And we need to stop. Trump wins the whack-a-mole. He beats us with it, and he has for the last decade. We need the next 8 months in Ohio politics to be about answering one question for the people of Ohio. What does it look like if for the first time in 20 years, the people of Ohio see fit to give Democrats power? And not what does it look like in Washington? What does it look like in our schools, our roads, our hospitals and clinics? What does that look like? And in a close election, and I believe this will be a close election, I think the whole thing may come down to, do we tell that story in a way that the average Ohioan sees himself in the future that we're trying to build? So thank you for starting like that. My name is Bryan Hambley. I am a leukemia doctor down the street at the University of Cincinnati, doing the most natural thing in the world, running for Secretary of State of Ohio. And I really get this is not the most common career path for a leukemia doctor. So I'm going to take about 8 minutes to describe why in the world I'm doing this, and then I look forward to the questions from you and the questions from the leadership. Now, my wife Jana and I have had a recurring conversation that I imagine a lot of you have had with your loved ones. And it goes something like this. What comes next in Ohio's democracy? Right? After a decade of bitterness and poor leadership, what comes next? And what can all of us do to build the best possible future? How do we bring more communities in Ohio up? How do we let fewer people in our state down? Now, I'm reminded in my day job that everybody cares about the health of themselves and their communities. 2 years ago, I had a patient, young single mother from down near Portsmouth, a rural part of our state. I went to her local hospital with a nosebleed, only to be told she had leukemia. She had to come to Cincinnati, 2 hours, by ambulance, sirens blaring the whole way. And when I walked into her room on the old 8th floor leukemia ward at UC, this woman was scared. But she wasn't just scared of the leukemia. She was scared that her new high deductible health plan, this woman had insurance, but a $10,000 out-of-pocket max was going to leave her with co-pays too high to afford Christmas presents for her kids. She was afraid that her insurance was going to deny the chemo she needed because she had many friends where insurance had played this deny game. And she was afraid that she'd spend the next 2 years of treatment driving back and forth to Cincinnati because all the local hospitals and clinics in her rural part of our state had either been consolidated down or closed entirely. They could have provided at least some of the care she needed. Those were her fears. And this was the afternoon of the day she was diagnosed with leukemia. The first discussion I ever had with her. And I thought to myself, this woman is not describing Democratic fears or Republican fears. She was describing human fears. To this day, I don't know how this woman votes. When I think of what have our gerrymandered Republican congresspeople from the state of Ohio done to build a more secure future for that woman and the many people in our state like her with chronic diseases, it's nothing. And it was worse than nothing last July when every Republican member of Congress from our state voted for a budget that will cut 500,000 Ohioans from their health care. And they're so proud of it that they structured it where it will kick in 2 months after this fall's election. It leaves all of us telling the story about the crisis that's just around the corner. And some of you might wonder, what does that got to do with Secretary of State? And I'll start by saying what the Secretary of State is supposed to do by the Ohio Constitution. There are 3 main jobs. Number 1, Secretary of State is supposed to draw fair districts. You go to vote for that congressperson. Number 2, Secretary of State is supposed to write honest ballot language when you vote on constitutional amendments. And number 3, Secretary of State is supposed to make it easy and fair for every Ohio citizen to vote. That's the job. Anybody sign the anti-gerrymander petition in 2024? Yeah, it was likely to be that kind of group. Thank you. I don't have to tell everybody in this room that we have a Secretary of State in Ohio who for the last 7 years has doubled down on gerrymandering, disenfranchising millions of Ohioans. Democrats and Republicans alike get hurt by gerrymandering. A handful of Republican politicians might be helped. Republican voters, long-term, get hurt too. We have a Secretary of State who now twice has used dishonest ballot language, of all things, putting his thumb on the scale so that he could get his way rather than just let Ohio voters get their way. And we've got a Secretary of State who every chance he gets makes it a little harder for people to vote, especially people he doesn't think are likely to vote for him. That's what we have. But this discussion tonight has got to be about imagining something better. We should imagine an Ohio where our districts are drawn, not by the politicians who sit in those seats, but by an independent redistricting commission. This is not pie in the sky. Conservative states like Idaho use it, or progressive states like Michigan use it. We should do it here in Ohio. And the way we should get there is if we win the Secretary of State race in 2026, we will control ballot language. And we should put an independent redistricting commission right back on the ballot in 2027. There is good polling. With clear ballot language, we will win by 10 to 20 points. It would be a sea change for power in the state of Ohio. I think we should imagine Ohio where when you vote on any constitutional amendment, you can understand in plain English what you're voting on. And imagine in Ohio where it is easy and fair for every Ohio citizen to vote. So when people ask me, why does a leukemia doctor want to be Secretary of State? I say issue number one in Ohio for people trying to build a better healthcare system is a broken and gerrymandered democracy that cuts us all off at the knees before we ever get started. I think, as former Governor Gilligan used to say, that government has to be where we do together what none of us can do alone. Build great schools, safe roads, and a healthcare system that I passionately believe ought to be universal, simple, and affordable. Now, I recognize I am running for an office that no Democrat has won in 20 years. It has been a dry spell for our party in this state, for governor on down. And sometimes people ask, what makes me think a Democrat could win anything, even in a good year? Traveling in Ohio for the last 14 months, I think Ohio voters are looking for something different and are ready for a better democracy where our communities can thrive. A lot of people have been left behind in our state. And Democrats have a big choice to make. There are 2 Democrats running for Secretary of State, and we couldn't be more different people. And while I know that my opponent will lean on their experience and long political history, I think that experience is in the wrong direction for Secretary of State, and we disagree about 2 key issues. First, we disagree about gerrymandering. And Representative Russo voted, unfortunately, with Republicans for gerrymandered maps in 2023, throwing Toledo and Cincinnati under the bus. I believe that the League of Women Voters, Justice Jennifer Brunner, our last Democratic Secretary of State, are exactly right. Compromising on gerrymandering was a mistake. And it is disqualifying if you want to be in charge of drawing the maps in our state. Second, I believe corporate PAC money is an upstream problem in our politics. These corporations get something when they donate to politicians. And we've seen it with First Energy. We see it over and over again in Ohio history. I have committed that we will raise more money than any Democrat ever running for this office, and we will do it without taking one dime of corporate PAC. This is a rebuilding job for Democrats in the state of Ohio. There is no power dynasty to take over. I've been a part of rebuilding jobs. When I joined the University of Cincinnati down the street as a leukemia physician in 2020, we were the worst adult leukemia and bone marrow transplant program in the nation for survival. And a Chicago consultant had recommended shutting the program down. UC told me this 2 weeks after Jan and I moved the kids to Cincinnati. and we knew that some of our patients would be okay getting to Columbus or getting to Cleveland for their care. But we would be leaving a lot of people in Southern Ohio behind. So we didn't shut it down. We gathered a team of nurses, nurse practitioners, social workers. 6 years on, we have gone from the very worst program in the nation to today in the top 10% of leukemia and bone marrow transplant programs for survival. And we just built a huge new building at UC, the public hospital in Cincinnati, which has become a destination for leukemia care. And while a couple people have given me most of the credit for this turnaround, the truth is it wasn't just me. It was our nurses who didn't leave in 2020 when it was no fun to work at UC's Cancer Center. The social workers who never let an insurance company denying care stand between a patient and the right chemo for their cancer. So when I think of that long shot in medicine, rebuilding a public hospital leukemia program, and what lessons to take in to what is admittedly a bit of a long shot in politics, a Democrat winning statewide in Ohio, there are 3 lessons. Number 1, in any long shot, you need a team, not just a person. There is no single person coming to save Ohio Democrats. We are going to have to do it together. Second, in any uphill battle, you need a long-term vision of what are you fighting for when it gets hard. That's why I want to start with what we're proud of. That's why I think we cannot just be the party of not Trump. We ran that election in Ohio in 2018. We lost it. What does it look like if we win? And tell it in stories that every Ohio family can see themselves in. And number 3, you need work ethic. And there is no replacing work ethic for a Democrat trying to win in Ohio. That is why this actually is our 308th event. That is why, as of 4 weeks ago, we announced we have raised more than $900,000, more than any down-ballot Democrat for this office at this point ever. Jan and I have 2 children. We want them and every child in Ohio to have a democracy where they can use their moral imaginations to solve whatever the great problems of their time are. Thank you for coming and the invitation, and I look forward to answering some questions.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much. Wow, it's great talk.
All right.
So we have a couple of questions that the leadership of the organization put together, and then we'll get to yours. So you already answered one of them, which had to do with differences between you and your opponent. Yeah, done. But the next one is, now that our current Attorney General has, turned over, actually, I guess the Attorney General did turn over our voter rolls, right, to the feds. What can be done to protect our personal information and our vote here in Ohio?
I'll say 2 things about that. Usually I do 3s, but I'll say 2 on this. First, what Frank LaRose did was wrong. And everyone needs to know a couple things about what he turned over. He sent voter information, including the last 4 digits of every Ohio voter's Social Security number, to the Department of Justice. This was not publicly available information. It was private information. It also went to the Department of Justice. So the Republican line that the government already has your Social Security number. No, the Social Security Department has your Social Security number. Pam Bondi and a partisan Department of Justice did not have the last 4 of your Social Security number. Second, what are we worried about? Like, how do we defend against it? We need to know where they're going. The Social Security Administration does not keep updated citizenship status. And so when a voter becomes a naturalized citizen, registers to vote, that Social Security number, if you run it through the Social Security system, might flag them as a non-citizen, even if they got naturalized a decade before. The specific thing that I and many in the League of Women Voters and other democracy advocates are worried about is that they are going to flag large numbers of naturalized citizens as potential non-citizens and tell states, largely Republican states, to ask for extra documentation of those naturalized citizens. What would this do? If we have a few 100,000 naturalized citizens that are flagged like this in the state of Ohio, maybe a third of them don't go to the trouble of providing that extra documentation. Could they get 50,000 or 100,000 votes in Ohio by doing this? They absolutely could. That's what we need to be watching out for, and we need to sue as soon as we see it happen.
Great. Thank you. Next one. Do you anticipate that special precautions will have to be taken to ensure that the voters in the 26th election, that the votes, I'm sorry, in the 26th election are counted fairly and not confiscated by the Department of Justice?
Yes.
Next question.
I'll say I'm a poll worker in Warren County. I have confidence in the Democrats and Republicans who show up to work the polls, collect your information, set up the voting machines, tear them down at the end of the day. You know, it's about half Democrats and half Republicans. Those processes work. I have confidence in our boards of elections in the 88 counties across the state of Ohio. What I don't have confidence in is the very top political echelon of the Republican Party of Ohio. That's the group that we need to be watching. That's who we need to be opposing.
Okay, good. Thank you. I think you already addressed to some extent this question. Can you imagine a time when it's appropriate to use ballot language that is in direct opposition to the intent of statutes passed by the legislature or citizen-led ballot initiatives? How would you approach that?
The short answer to this will be no.
Good.
And I'll keep this short. Ballot language in Ohio is written by 5 members of the ballot board. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and the Secretary of State. And it's majority rules. That is why the Secretary of State controls ballot language in the state of Ohio. I have committed that whether it is a progressive or a conservative ballot initiative or constitutional amendment, ballot language should never be used by the Secretary of State as a political tool. And so anybody supporting or opposing a constitutional amendment will need to take it to voters, not to ballot language to win.
Excellent. I think we can all get behind that one. Okay, and here's an ad lib question on my part. It wasn't approved by the executive. Okay, I'm winging it here. Okay, but so today, debate began, I think it was today, on the SAVE Act in the Senate. So can you help us all understand what it would mean if the SAVE Act is currently drafted or adopted into law here in Ohio?
There's a lot of things the SAVE Act does. I think for our purposes, talking to friends, maybe family members who don't spend a lot of time talking about politics, we should boil it down to one thing. The SAVE Act would make it harder for women who decided to change their name when they got married to register to vote. The Brennan Center for Justice, that does a lot of research on election issues, has said that 20 to 30 million American women do not currently have the documentation that this SAVE Act would require to register to vote. It is stunning that that is where the debate in American democracy is right now. We shouldn't let that be normalized. So there's one thing we need to push out. That's it. I am hopeful that the Senate will not blow up the filibuster. If they do not have 60 votes to ram it through. That's the good news nationally. The bad news in Ohio is that bits and pieces of it are making their way into our legislature, where they have a much better chance of passing and becoming law.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yeah, hit it.
So there's a discussion on Facebook about the SAVE Act coming up, and everyone's saying that, okay, only 5 states on the real ID on your driver's license gives a citizenship, but then everyone's coming back and saying, well, in Ohio to get a real ID, you have to show them your birth certificate anyway, so that's essentially proving where you were born. What's, how do...
I don't know the real ID and where that would fall with like the current SAVE Act. Anybody know? I'm not sure.
Okay.
No.
Thanks.
Okay, now, thank you. Wonderful. I love how you answer questions in a very efficient way. It's great. It leaves us time to have a greater dialogue, an ongoing dialogue with you. So now it's participation time for you all in the audience. So comments, questions, what didn't he address? What would you like to see Bryan answer in terms of questions? Advice to him.
How do we get money out of politics?
The first thing we need to do to get big money, corporate money, out of politics is to nominate and elect people who do not take it. We have to start with first principles. Second, Citizens United was a terrible decision. It is an upstream problem for our democracy. Until we are able to overturn Citizens United, though, we're going to have to do this election by election, case by case, and then win. I do not buy the argument that you can take corporate PAC money, take all the money, spend it to win an election, get me in office, and then tell all the people who wrote these big PAC checks to you, you're going to do whatever you want anyway. They are buying access. They are buying power. We need to recognize that with clear eyes. I think especially if you're running for Secretary of State, who is in charge of investigating campaign finance violations, corporate PAC money is especially bad in that office. Did that answer your question?
Next, who has a comment or a question? Shy.
I just have a comment. I love your enthusiasm. I mean, I've heard House of Russo talk, and she gives you the same stuff, but I mean, you kind of give me the idea that you're in there to fight, and you're going to do it, and do a very good job, so I really appreciate that you're running, so thank you.
Should have had that on tape, or film, but it is on tape. Okay. Somebody else? Sue Ellen.
Oh, let's go.
Oh, I would come to the microphone.
Oh.
Okay, I just want to follow up on a couple of things that you said. You're talking about women, having trouble registering. I happen to have some League of Women Voters materials back here. I'm sure everybody in here is registered, but women particularly need to use one of the QR codes and check your registration monthly until the time of the elections. Secondly, there is, would you pull that up? No, the other one. Oh. The big one. These have all the dates for when the various aspects of voting have to be done this year. So that will tell you when you have to get a vote by mail, when you have to have it in, when you have to, all of those things. So, and the other thing is, I don't know if somebody else is going to announce this, but our next Gold Talks in a month, at April 7th actually, is going to be about the deep canvassing, which is essentially what you described about asking friends, neighbors, and in this case, canvassing within your district and asking those kinds of what do you want from your politicians, what does that look like, et cetera, et cetera. Then later going back and being able to say to those people, these are people that are going to deliver this for you. So I don't know if you've heard that described before, but it will be described and you can sign up for it at our next Bold Talk. So go on the webpage and find out when and where.
All right. Thank you. Good.
Yes,
Over
I
here.
don't need the microphone.
All right.
I just wanted to mention that I did receive an email today about canvassing for you on Saturdays. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, right here in
Talk about
Cincinnati. Yep. We have been canvassing since March 7th. Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, Akron so far. We would love to have people come. Mark, I think it's 11 a.m. this Saturday.
I grew up.
And if you are interested in canvassing, if you're interested in canvassing, if you email team@hambleyforohio.com, we will get you the address and the link to sign up to canvass. On March 28th, rather than canvass, we're going to No Kings rallies throughout the state and asking people if they've got a campaign shirt or sweatshirt that Kathy is kindly modeling there.
Good job, Kathy.
That is the day to wear them. Thank you for bringing that up. Ringer.
Other questions or comments? Over here.
Yeah.
We'll get them over here.
Yes. With the threat of the SAVE Act, does that, as I understand it, that means even if somebody is already registered, if they don't have whatever documentation SAVE Act dreams up to put forth, they may not be able to vote again?
The technical problem of how the SAVE Act would deal with voters who are already registered throughout the country isn't really defined yet. It doesn't look like they would make all 200 and some million Americans who are of adult age re-register to vote if they're already registered, but you know, that's way down the line. Hopefully we never have to deal with it. If it goes through the Senate, by blowing up the filibuster, we do have a lot of real problems there. But no, they haven't said that they would ban unregister every American voter.
So technically, if you're already registered, it won't affect you, but if you are registering or changing your address, if there's any interaction you have apparently with the Board of Elections, you need to update your registration, for example, then you will need to provide apparently this documentation.
That's exactly right. And let me just say one other thing I forgot to mention, Bruce. There's a strategy in why they have already been targeting people who move more frequently. People who move more frequently are more likely to rent, they're more likely to vote Democratic, and so you can say you're not targeting by race, you're not targeting by socioeconomic status, it's just people who move more frequently. But they know exactly what they're doing. The SAVE Act would have the same implications, where people who move more frequently would have a harder time.
Great, yes, great. Speak up, Greg, maybe we don't need to wait for you.
So in 2024, we hit 2 ballot initiatives in the past. One was women's health care, and the second was marijuana. But now
23, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now the state legislature is trying to weaken those ballot initiatives. What can the Secretary of State do to make sure that what we vote on is actually what we get out of the state legislature? Is there anything that you guys can do?
Yeah, so the Secretary of State needs to be the biggest advocate for voters and voting rights in the state of Ohio. We had 2 crystal clear ballot initiatives in the state in 2023. One was that Ohioans believe by about a 15-point margin that women should have the right to choose an abortion if that is right for them. Second, Ohioans do not think that we should be throwing a bunch of people in jail for marijuana. It was a crazy policy for a long time. Ohioans were crystal clear by 10 to 15 points. They think that it shouldn't happen. Our legislature is now trying to go through the back door to weaken both of those initiatives, especially the marijuana initiative right now. Secretary of State has a limited amount that they can do. They can join lawsuits against what the legislature is doing. Until we get a less partisan Supreme Court in the state of Ohio, boy, we don't have a lot of backstops behind us if the legislature is overreaching. Sorry, that's not, but I don't want to overstate the power of the Secretary of State on that one.
Thank you.
Let's have one more question, then we'll have time for mingling before we have to get out of here. More comment? Anybody? Well, then we can turn over to Tony. We'll give us a
Thank you, Tony. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much. We got to get this guy elected. He is our hope. In this room right now, there is our hope for Ohio, for democracy. And it's not going to come easy, as he's pointed out. But we can all
do something. So I'm here to talk about volunteerism. I'm not going to preach. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm going to give you a simple solution. You've already got the handout, okay? I'm available. I will give you my phone number. If you want to volunteer, you can call me. I'm a volunteer on his team.
Me too.
And I work really hard. And you can call me, or you can call Jen, and you can sign up through us. If you don't want to use a QR code, that's fine. I'm 74 years old and I just learned how to use a QR code, and I've gotten damn good at it. But I don't know every phone or every angle to it, but I'm doing my best, and I've already texted 600 people in the area in the state of Ohio to support Bryan. It can be done. You can do it. Even a geezer like me can do it. So that's the end of my speech. So I'll give you my phone number. I'll write it on a sheet of paper. Jen may do the same thing, but I'll be right back there and just step up, and we're ready to go. I mean, we've been going, and we're going to keep going. He's going to win.
If you want to get involved, there's 3 things you can do. Number 1, what Tony just said, it makes a lot of difference. If you are reaching out to people in your network, it's dramatically more effective than if I or our campaign is reaching out. Second, May 5th is a big day because Ohio Democrats get to choose the future of our party and what message we want to put forth on democracy issues. If you would consider voting for me and asking your friends to vote for me, I would deeply appreciate it. And number 3, of course, donations have really powered us so far, and if anybody goes to our website or to the back table to donate, that's very much appreciated. Thank you for being here today.
Great. Thank you very much for your clarity, passion, and vision for Ohio. We appreciate it very much, Doc. Good to see you. So time to mingle, but we do need to get out of here. Yes, go ahead, Kathy.
What I want to say is, we have started doing telephoning, and we have lists. If you will do the code here, it'll get you to Bryan's webpage, and it'll give you information on how to sign up for it. And that's how we're doing, besides the texting and the phone calls and wearing our t-shirts and doing all the things we need to do to bring Bryan to the victory circle.
Thank you, Kathy.
And there are yard signs in the back here if you want to take a yard sign.
So folks, and Mayor, thank you very much. We appreciate it, Harriet.
I want to see more of these signs in more yards.
Thank you for coming, folks. Appreciate it. Welcome to hang out here, folks. And thanks once again to Just Hewitt.
Good, how are you?